What is the basic difference between manures and fertilizers? What are the basic difference?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, manure is totally organic and fertilizers is made of chemicals in the lab.
Very good. So basically that's, in one word, in one sentence, you have actually marked a difference. So can somebody else give me examples of manures and fertilizers?
I use cow dung. Could be cow dung is a type of manure that people use also.
Cow dung would be for manure, and what about fertilizer?
Ma'am, may I?
Okay.
Ma'am, NPK.
Sorry?
NPK.
NPK, very good. NPK is a very commonly and a very highly used fertilizers. Very good, excellent. So basically, what we were discussing is, manure and fertilizers. The topsoil supports plant life. Remember, Ronak, just now you asked me, what was the difference between tilling and plowing?
Yes, ma'am.
I told you now about topsoil. Right, what happens is that the entire 6 months, 4 months, 7 months, till whatever time the crop is growing and then it is being harvested, the topsoil is the one which actually is exposed to all the air and watering and manure and fertilizer. It is exposed, right? So this actually contributes a lot towards the growth of a crop. It actually contributes a lot. That's the reason why after the harvest season is over, this is something which becomes completely lifeless because everything has been extracted by the crops. So that's the reason why the topsoil needs to go down and the soil which is here at the base needs to come up. So kind of you're refreshing the soil. Right? So this is what I was saying, the topsoil supports plant life, right? Because they derive their mineral nutrition from it. And also see when farmers or agriculturists, when they are spraying manure fertilizers, they're all spraying it on the topsoil only. They are not digging the soil and putting manure here. They are doing that also, but that is at the initial phase. But most of the time, 90% of the time, be it at the preparation of soil or be it during the crop when it is like a sapling and then grows up and then it's a little more mature and then harvest, throughout you're just sprinkling the manure and fertilizer on the soil. Even take into consideration at your home when you have plants in your balcony, you're only putting the fertilizers or manures on the topsoil. You don't dig the soil and put the manure and then cover it, right? So that's the reason why, the soil needs to be really enriched with minerals. So can somebody tell me what are the minerals? First of all, what are minerals? And second, what all minerals are required by plants?
Minerals are the substances present in soil which like gives a certain type of nutrition to the plant.
Very good, very well said. And can you name a few minerals?
Iron, potassium, calcium, many.
Good, very good. And there are certain minerals like what Ronak said, the NPK. NPK is something which is like really needed by almost all the plants. So what is NPK basically?
Ma'am, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium.
Excellent. So NPK is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Good, good, very good. So when you are plowing, once again, Ronak, your question being answered, when you are plowing, you are turning the soil upside down so that it brings the leached minerals up from the soil below. So what happens when you're adding the fertilizers on the topsoil? So from the topsoil, it is with and after you're watering, right? Certain amounts of minerals are also going down, right? So now while plowing, you're turning this soil up and this soil down. So you're actually also taking some amount of good soil up, some rich soil up, and taking the entirely dry and devoid soil down. This is what you do. This is a kind of recycling the entire soil, right? So you're kind of replenishing. Replenishing is a terminology that is being used, right? With addition of fertilizers. Correct? All right. So that was manures and fertilizers. Now we go a little more detail into manures. So I would request all of you actually to take notes, whichever point you find, it might be of help. If it's not there covered in your textbook or school, please make a note of it. Okay. Now we come to three things. This would be compost, P-O-S-T, compost, right? Manures can be divided into three portions: green manure, animal manure, and compost. Right? Naisha, can you tell me what is green manure?
Manure is made of like leaves or like grasses and stems, things like that.
Correct. Very good. So can you give me some examples of it and how does it help? Naisha?
Like grass, like any kind of grass. Methi. Mint, maybe.
Correct.
I'm
Very
not
good.
sure. Yeah, and they help make the soil more fertile, and they give it nourishment.
Correct. Very good. So basically, there's just one thing that needs to be the reason why. Okay, these are all things. We are still in the process of preparing the soil, because while preparation, green manures are specially used when the soil is prepared. That's the reason why, remember I told you that the land is kept vacant, maybe for a couple of months, a month, 45 days or so. So that is the time when the tilling is done, when the plowing is done, and that is also when you add green manure. Because after putting green manure, this is, a classic example of green manure. There are certain ray grass. There are certain grass which are very rich in nitrogen, right? So you put all this green grass all over the field and you let it like that for 30 days. Right? So these 30 days, maybe you might water, you might not water, depending on the crop that you want to grow and the weather. So it will take 30 days for these grasses to decompose. And during this decomposition, what will happen is that there would be several microbes that will grow during the decomposition. There would be certain, gases which will be produced, like a nitrogen or a methane gas, which are very beneficial for the soil. It makes the soil much more richer in a very natural way. Remember that any natural way is time taking, consumes time, but it's very beneficial. It takes a lot of time, but it's very beneficial. Maybe, whatever microbes and nutrients it has added, it would have taken just 2 days if the person would have added fertilizers. But that fertilizer will not go a long way because fertilizers are all chemically derived and they would cause bad side effects. Right? So that's the reason why nowadays green manures are less, frequently done. But now with this organic cultivation and this revolution of having fresh and organic stuff, the green manures are coming back. But it's time consuming and, the farmer needs to spend a lot of money to that. So what is the output? Obviously, it increases the fertility of the soil. So you're still preparing the soil, preparing the soil before. It's just like preparing the child for the first 3-4 years before the child starts going to school. You keep on telling the child that, go to school, you cannot cry when you feel hungry. There would be a specific time when you have to eat your food. You cannot eat always, right? So this is also the time when you're preparing the soil, so that it's perfectly ready with all the nutrients, water and everything, and the season when you're planting the seeds, sowing the seeds.
Excuse me.
Yes, Ronak.
Ma'am, manure is actually means a dead composition of plants or animals, or what is it?
See, manure is anything that is natural. As you only said, manure is anything that is natural. What all natural? Green, animal and compost. We have...
Ma'am, means in green manures they directly put the plants or the...
Yes, they are directly putting the grass and they're all putting it all over the field. all over the farm, and they will allow it to decompose it there in the field itself.
That means they are not dead.
Yeah, they are dead. They will cut the grass from somewhere else and they will just throw the grass on the field where they want to sow. They will not plant the grass there. They will just throw it.
Okay, ma'am.
Right. So that is one way. And there is one more way also, whereby, they grow certain plants. There are certain plants which will only take 30 days to 40 days to grow. So, during that course of time, they would also grow those grasses there or grow those plants there. That is also being done. Right? They grow those grasses there and they let it, grow so that it kind of makes the soil rich there. That is also green manure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, the next is animal manure. What is animal manure? Who would answer? Kavya?
Yes, ma'am. Animal manure basically mostly consists of animal waste, for example, cow dung or cow dung, and it's basically animal waste.
Hmm. So, yeah. So, how does it help the soil?
Ma'am, by
It
providing minerals.
increases the fertility of the soil.
Correct. Is there any particular thing which it makes the soil rich in? Is there any particular nutrient, is there any particular mineral in which it makes the soil rich? Right? So basically, animal manures, as very correctly said, would be highly used as cow dung. But for that matter, all and any cattle dung is being used. Bone meal. What is bone meal? Bone meal is basically, all the bones of these animals or, from wherever they get bones, that is being pounded and made into dust. So that dust is also being used as an animal manure. Also blood meal. What is blood meal? I'm sure all of you must have heard of slaughterhouses, right? Slaughterhouses are basically where animals are being they're brought to death over there, either because they're unwell or for food or for something else, right? For meat. So these slaughterhouses collect a lot of those animal blood, which actually is very rich in iron, right? That's the reason why that those blood are then processed to a certain extent and they're used as blood meal in certain fields. So crops that would require a high amount of iron would use blood meal. Crops that would require a high amount of phosphorus, calcium would use bone meal. Cow dung, of course, has a lot of, nitrogen in it. It has a lot of methane in it, ammonia in it, right? So depending on whatever is the crop that would be grown, accordingly they would use the animal manure.